Hello everyone, Ken here, back with part 2 of the Data Science Project from Scratch series. In this video, I'll show you how to go about finding your own data, and I'll also show you how to set up a GitHub repo to version your code. Data collection can be extremely different for every project, and it can also be pretty frustrating sometimes. So have fun watching me kind of go ahead and struggle through this. For most of my data science work, I use the Spider IDE, and I think that's a fine place to start. You can also use Colab or Jupyter Notebooks, whatever you want. If you do want more information on how to get your computer set up for data science projects, I recommend watching the video that I've linked above and below about the data science environment setup with Anaconda. If you recall from my last video, I decided to do a project related to the data science field. I want to try and predict the salary of a position based on some of the factors associated with the job. I'll be looking for this data on LinkedIn and Glassdoor.com. If you enjoy this video, please hit that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Also, feel free to subscribe and turn on notifications to see my next weekly video and the continuation of this series. Okay, so let's take a quick look at these two websites and see what data is available there. So I've pulled up some job descriptions for data science roles, as you can see up here, on LinkedIn and on Glassdoor. So on LinkedIn, it looks like some of this information is pretty readily accessible. If we want to see where it's located for some scraping tools, we can go in and see that it's located in the span. It looks like usually when there are lists like this on the side and it's all embedded, that this is probably a JavaScript component, so that might be a little bit harder to scrape. Let's look at Glassdoor. It looks like they use a similar web architecture, but they do have some salary data, which is what we're going for. It looks like this is a Glassdoor estimate, and it's generally not a great practice to do predictions or use a dependent variable that is already an estimate, but I think this is probably going to be the best we can get here, and we might, if we were to go back in the future and also append different data, be able to improve on this Glassdoor model. So right now, let's try and basically make our own Glassdoor prediction engine using some of the information that we have here. So we've decided on actually going about and using and scraping Glassdoor because they have this price info. I think they also have the same company info as well that we would want to see. So in order to write a web scraper, whenever we're doing one of these projects, we want to put it on GitHub. So let's quickly make a GitHub repo. So I'm going to open the git bash, which is the command line, and we're going to change into my documents folder. Then we're going to make a ds salary proj folder. So that just makes a folder, and then we're going to change into that folder. And then we're going to initialize this on Git. Well, we're going to initialize this repo so it's using the Git architecture, and then we're going to link it at the end of the video to our GitHub account. So we're going to go on GitHub. We're going to make a new repo, and we're going to call this ds salary. Oh, was it pred or proj? ds salary proj. Repo for the data science salary of the data science project from video on my YouTube. Great. So we're not going to initialize the README because we've already made the folder on our computer. So what we're going to do is we're going to eventually add that folder on our computer to this repo that we've created on the GitHub website. And we're going to push all that stuff at the end of this video. Okay, so let's go through and figure out how we're going to scrape some of this data. There are generally two approaches to scraping data online. You can either go through and use Beautiful Soup, which takes all of the HTML on a page and organizes it and lets you pull some of the elements. Or you can use Selinium, which is basically a bot that goes through and clicks on elements of the page and copies them into a data frame. So because some of these websites use, it looks like some JavaScript, we probably want to go with the Selenium approach. And you can go and learn all about these packages, but I also think it's a lot faster and easier to see if someone has actually done this before. So we're going to Google Glassdoor scraper Selenium. I think I spelled that wrong. But, okay, so the first one is a Glassdoor scraper in Selenium that you can do in 10 minutes by Homer Sakuria. And this looks like a lot of the data that we would really want right here. So let's try, there's no problem in data science when you use someone else's code. You just want to make sure that they're credited for their work. Usually you can fork their code on GitHub and, work off of it that way. That way, you're giving recognition. If the code isn't something that makes sense to fork, then you just make sure you put it in the README at the top to let people know that this is where you started off getting that code. So if we look here, we can see that, this looks like almost exactly what we want. It's just going to go through all of the jobs, and it looks like it does this via a Jupyter notebook. Let's see if we can find the GitHub. All right, this is taking me a little longer than I expected to just find where the GitHub is. Here we go. You can download the Jupyter notebook here. I don't particularly want to use Jupyter for this use case, so I'm gonna do this in Spider, which again is my preferred IDE. I will of course reference him and link to this repo in the README. But again, since he's using an IPython notebook and I will be using a normal Python file, I think it makes a bit more sense for me to just copy it and then credit him after. So we're going to open a Spider notebook. We're going to navigate to our file that we created. And then we are going to just copy this in there and see if we can actually get it to run. Oops. So let's see first if I have all the packages that we need. Okay, I have all the packages that we need. I guess I've used Selenium before. Now we're going to go through and get jobs. This is not exactly the most elegant code I've ever seen, but again, with data science, it is usually about how functional it is. So we're going to shoot for functionality here. And if it gets the job done, that will be very important. And then let's see here, we want to get, that's a lot of code. See, this is a lot of code that now you do not have to write. Wow, okay, let's not do the approach that I took with copying this. That is a huge pain in the ass. We're just going to try and copy the whole thing in one go. If there's a better way to do this, let me know, but I'm just going to make it really small. A lot of code, wow. There we go. And then we can just do this last chunk. And we are set. Let's make sure everything is lined up correctly. We want this indent to be even with that. And those are all, well, these don't really matter how they're working. And then we want this try except to be Oops. Try accept break. Okay. Okay, looks like we got this code in here. Let's save it into our, oops, wrong documents. Let's save it here into the folder we created. And then we're gonna call this web Glassdoor scraper. And then we want to test if it actually works. Okay, now that we've got this copied in, let's see if we can get it to work. So there's one thing that we need to fix here, and we have to go to the actual path of our Chrome driver, which I've downloaded. You want to check what Google Chrome version you have and get the correct driver for that. So we're going to do path here, and we're also going to put a path up here. So that way when we just write this function, we can put our own path in. It looks like this time might be relevant to our own browser, so let's just change this to sleep time and add that in up here as well. So with that being said, let's try and run this really quickly. So we're going to import Glassdoor scraper as GS. We're also going to import pandas as PD, and then we're going to make our data frame equal to gs.getJobs. We know that it takes a keyword, data scientist, number of jobs, we want 15, verbose. In his stuff, he generally sets it to false, and then we want to create a path here, and so we know we can just find this path right here. For me, it is this. Oh. So then we can put this in quotes. I think we have to switch around the signs here, and then it should work. Okay, so we have our path 9. We want to add our path here. And then we also want the wait time. I think let's do a little bit longer wait than what they had. I think my internet's acting up a little bit. So let's see if this actually works. So it's good. The browser is popping out. That's part of Selenium. So remember, Selenium takes a browser and it acts just like it were a human going through it. So it's part of that kind of 15-second wait that we had. So let's see how this handles if we keep going. Okay, so this pop-up window, I think that I saw something about this in his documentation. So let's go here. So bypassing the sign-up prompt, it looks like that's already in the code, but for some reason maybe this part isn't working. So let's go back to our code and try and fix that part. So just to make sure this is the part, let's do print x out worked, and then if it fails, we'll print it here, print x out failed. So let's go back and try and run this again. And hopefully we'll get something a little bit more specific, a little bit different. Again, this is a pretty iterative process, but it's still way faster than writing this code base from scratch. And you know, in the scheme of things for a data scientist, the portion that you're actually doing where it's data collection is a lot smaller than the actual analysis. So people are going to care a little bit less about how you actually collect the data than if you were a software engineer or something like that. So again, the page loaded, which is what we want. Now we have to see if it is going to actually start scraping for us. So we got this, and let's go up and see the error message here. So the X out failed. So we're still having some trouble with that element here. So actually let's just go, this is a failed attempt. Let's inspect this element. Let's inspect this because that's what we want to click on. So it looks like we can also, maybe we should try and click on this span instead. And so I think that we can click by an element instead of by the class. So we can click by this alt. So let's try and do that. So we'll go in here, and instead of find driver by class, we'll see we want to keep we need driver find element by CSS selector. I think that should make sense for us. And so what we're going to do is I think it's an alt equals close, if I recall correctly, and see if that allows us to find it instead. So we want to close that there, and then we want to click on it. Ooh, okay, so let's give this another run. And again, this process is pretty slow, but once it starts scraping, it'll move a lot faster, I think, because then we can just iterate. We don't have to worry about this error message. So once we get through one, we should be able to just keep plugging. You know, one thing that I'm realizing now is that this is also for San Francisco. So, you know, oh, it looks like we're scraping. So we'll probably want to change this so that we are looking for other places as well, not just San Francisco. So as you can see, it scrapes pretty fast. And let's see what this output actually looks like after we get it. So we go through 14, we go through 15. Wonderful. Okay, so now let's look at our data frame. Actually, let's just pop it out. Probably more fun to look at it that way. Great. So it looks like we have all the data science titles, but there's an issue with the salary estimate. We're not getting any salaries, which is obviously the most important thing for our use case here. So the job descriptions look fine, ratings look fine, company names also look fine, and they also have their ratings. So we could parse that out and see how company rating impacts the salary estimate too. Location size, these are all really relevant things, and we're obviously going to clean this up quite a bit in the next section, which is data cleaning. So let's just go through and make it so that it's not just San Francisco tech companies or mostly California tech companies. Let's do across the US, and let's also make sure that we're getting the correct salary estimate in. Okay, so let's go to kind of an old page I have where we were inspecting some elements. We want to figure out what this actually looks like, where we're getting the actual text for the. Let's try and make this a little bigger. Maybe we can. There we go. So we want to again get this Glassdoor text, and that's exactly what. So we want span class gray salary, and it should have some sort of price there. Let's see how our actual current code is pulling that out. So print, no, we don't want, rather we want salary estimate. So let's find salary. We should be able to find, there should be 4. So let's go up 1. Format salary estimate. Okay, here we go. So this says gray small salary, and it looked like on this page it was just gray salary. So maybe that's something that has changed. But let's make that adjustment. And then let's also, while we're on this page, let's just clear the search and run it again. And then now we get, we can just copy this path in and use some of, and change this up here. So we want our URL to actually be equal to that new thing that we just copied in, that is cross country. And then we're just going to comment this one out because we don't want to mess it up too bad. We also see that our keyword is here. So the way that data scientist, there we go. So we want to add a quote there. So plus keyword. And that should be all we have to do to get this baby up and running. So let's try it one more time. We're going to run it. We're going to cross our fingers and hope that this works for us. So again, we wanted to make sure that we got that salary data, and we also wanted to make sure that we were getting companies from across Glassdoor. And that obviously did not appear to work. So it looks like maybe my link wasn't incredible. Keyword. Maybe we don't. Oh, no, we definitely want keyword data scientist. All right, so let's just try that one more time. Obviously that last one did not work out. So let's just see if it opens to the right page. Nope, it does not. So let's try and fool around with this. So if we open this in a new incognito window, let's see what happens. So that seems to work. Maybe I just botched something in this portion of it. So let's just try that one more time. We're just going to completely redo that. And then click source, we want the keyword. That is what I messed up. So we're going to end it after that part of keyword. And then we are going to close quote that. We are going to add keyword. And then it looks like we also want to do the same thing here. Plus keyword. Plus. All right. So that, in theory, should work. As long as our syntax is okay. I just have to add another plus there. Let's give that one more go. So sometimes you want to clear the cache because it will just remember some of the stuff that you did before. So we want to kind of avoid that if we can. So let's see what we got. Awesome. So far so good. We went to the right page this time. And now we just have to make sure that we iterate through. So our first one is from Maryland. It looks like the next one is New Mexico, Clearwater, Florida. That is all things that we want. Our thing popped up. Now we're iterating through. We've got 2, 3. Nice. So we've built our scraper. I'm going to let this run overnight. I'm not going to put you guys through just watching me load this data in, and I'm going to try and get around 1,000 records for us to clean up and analyze. So after this is done, I'll actually again show you what that data looks like. We want to double check that we have that salary and locational data, and let's see how we do. So we fixed the salary stuff, and we also have companies from what it looks like is all over the place, which is really good. So in the next video, I'm going to clean this up. I'm going to parse out the salary info. I'm going to parse out the company names from the ratings. We're going to look at the location probably by state rather than by city, and we can explore across these variables and eventually start building this model. So I hope that was informative. You obviously saw how I went about going through and getting this data, and it is a pretty messy process. So that's something you should prepare for. And the last thing we want to do is to upload this to our GitHub repo. So we want to open the git bash, and then we're going to open, oops, that's not what we want. We're going to open this. And so this shows you how to actually get these things onto your repo. So we want to change to our folder. What was it in? It was ds something, great. And then we want to git add, so we want to echo number ds salary proj. So that creates the readme, git add, we're just going to add everything. Warning. That's fine. And then we want to git commit -m uploaded scraper and run code. Great. And now we want to git remote add origin, and then we're going to copy the SSH here. And there we go. And then we're going to git push u origin master. Oh, hopefully you can see this. Sorry about that, guys. So now it is set up on our GitHub. It might take a second to load here. So let's just go back to this. And now you can see our code. So I have the Chrome driver that I use for mine, the data collection, the Glassdoor scraper. And next time you run this, we'll pull that code and we'll start working on it again. Please stay tuned for the next step, where we go through and we actually clean up the data, we clean up the how all of that works, we make it numeric, etc. As usual, thanks so much for watching, and good luck on your data science journey.